professionalism in the guiding industry is a culmination of everything that has to do with doing the job right. If you're going to be doing the job right, then you're going to be professional. But the bigger thing that it comes back to is making sure that you're covering all the bases and reading each client and understanding them to give them their most personal experience and making sure that it's hand tailored to fit each and every different person.
So when it comes to like professionalism in the field for a guide, I know some guides are in the lodge. It's one thing. You can kind of read the room and understand kind of what your clients are doing, what they're into. But in the field specifically, what does professionalism look like in a guide?
Professionalism for a guide in the field, I mean, it all comes back to knowing how your clients are. Like, first things first that I would start with is in the blind itself, you need to know who you're talking to in that way. Like, if you got a group of jokesters that are laid back, kicking it, having a good time, they like the bullshit, they you know what I mean? It's all right to make jokes. Like, if, like, you know, for example, today we did not have that kind of crowd, dropped a stack of mallards, but we did not have the greatest shooting. Well, that's not the time to make jokes. You know, that's not the time to kind of crack up. Those guys weren't those people. Whereas, you know, the group before, we had a group of like 20 mallards come in. They literally got like one. And I was like, dude, you guys can't shoot for shit. And everyone died laughing. And like, that was the joke. And like, it was that they loved that. They loved being kind of in the camaraderie. That's their experience. But like I said, this group we had in today, you don't do that. They aren't those kind of people. When I'd put 40 mallards at their feet and they'd kill 2 with 9 shooters, I'd go, well, you guys, we'll get them next time. You know, it'll be good. We're good. Like, it's fine.
Things are looking up. Things are looking up.
I mean, I ripped my heart out a little bit, and it's on my sleeve, and you just stabbed a fucking knife right through it. But, you know, we'll be all right. But the side note from that is the worst part is we had a first lessers of the year. We put probably 120 lessers in the hole on the plat. I mean, 10 yards. 10 yards was the closest bird, and probably 30 yards was the furthest bird between 150 geese. 9 shooters unleashed into it. You thought the whole bottom would have fell out. They got 6. So a little rough. We ended up, we had a 40 bird day, and it probably could have been a 60 bird day had we played our cards a little bit better, but we still had a great time. And anyways, backtrack it though. I'm off on a tangent. The best part is when you're doing that kind of stuff, knowing who you are, knowing who they are. Like, if they're the kind of guys that want to tell jokes and have fun, go for it. If they're the kind of guys that, you know, they want to sit and they're kind of quiet. Some of them like to talk amongst their own groups. Some of them like to talk to each other. Some of them want to kind of BS with everybody. And some guys, honestly, they sit there by themselves and they just take it all in by themselves. And like, the biggest thing is that every person's going to be different, and you have to be able to capitalize on each different person. You can't, you know what I mean? You can't use the same key. That was a shitty example. I was trying to make a thing. You can't use different keys for the same lock.
Yeah, that
was
sense.
Also retarded. You should cut that out. That was really bad. You should really cut that out.
It felt like really you were trying to say you got to use a different key for each
different
lock,
key for
maybe?
Different lock. Yeah, different key for different lock. Yeah, you should really cut that out.
Yeah, for sure. So how do you get around to like actually figuring those people out? And maybe for y'all it's different. Like, do y'all get to meet your clients before they come in and hunt? So they come in the night before, you meeting with them, and then for a guide who maybe is running clients and they're meeting them in the field the first day, like how do they start gauging where that professionalism needs to be?
It all starts the night before. Like, when we all like to have all of our crew at the lodge when the new group comes in, get to meet them, get to understand them, get to know who they are. You read a lot of things, you know. You can read up to how religious they are. You read if they swear or not. You read their kind of level of joking. You read if they're like serious. You also, on the flip side, you can tell if they're going to be good clients, high maintenance clients, bad clients, whatever it would be. Like, you can learn their expectations too, and all of that is important. I mean, if you have like all those put together, you know, if you have good clients who are, you know, they like to joke around and they swear some and whatever, then, you know, all of that's going to be perfectly acceptable. That's like our kind of crowd. I mean, we're not necessarily sailors. I mean, we kind of are, but we don't like go over the board with it. We don't use that much profanity, but there's definitely a little bit of it. And, being able to joke, we all light-humored people in our company. So having a good group of clients that likes to joke and is okay with a little swearing, that's about exactly perfect. And because that all provides the camaraderie for us. But overall, I mean, it's more of just like, you make a joke. Like I've seen this before. Like you make a bad joke or something at a bad time, and the clients are like, "Whoa," like that. There's silence. It just doesn't hit. Or you make a comment about something that you don't even intend it to be negative. Like if you go, "How many did we get? 2? All right." Or something like that. And, the way you said it, 2, and they're like, well, we're trying our best or whatever. And it's like, yeah, I know, it wasn't necessarily meant to be something negative, but a lot of people can misconstrue the intention of language. And so like, I don't know, we just always kind of tread lightly. We ease into subjects, we ease into different aspects of everything. So, just to make sure that, we start off like very reserved. I mean, we all kind of hold back our personalities. It's professional, strict professional, like big business meeting, like when we meet these guys. And then as they relax with us, we relax with them, if that makes sense, and understand them.
Yeah. I mean, that does make sense. How do y'all go about, or how would you want your guides, I guess, to go about correcting it? Like if it's in the field and they notice they say something off-putting, is it something you want them to address immediately, or is it more like personal after the hunt with the person that maybe took offense to it?
It depends what it is. If it's a group thing, you just go, guys, hey, that's my bad. Just trying to make a joke, trying to lighten the mood, and it didn't work. Or guys, I didn't mean to say it like that. If that's not what I meant. If it's something personal where you feel like you might have offended a certain person, that's where you catch them after the hunt. And you say, hey, hey man, I apologize, but the bigger thing is that you're finding them and apologizing at some point in general. Don't just make that mistake and let it go unnoticed, because they will remember that. That'll be one of their, key points from their trip that they will flag and be like, well, he said this and then never said anything about it.
Have y'all ever been blindsided by that? Like where you get client feedback after the hunt that, it could have been handled during the hunt if they would have spoke about it. I guess for a client, like what would your advice be to the actual client that if, there's a guide or the entire group is kind of making them uncomfortable in whatever way that is, would you recommend them just pulling the guide aside and like bringing that up?
Yeah, I don't think it would be a bad idea to pull them aside and say that. We've had clients make comments about like, well, our guides were not very professional today. We were not pleased with the professionalism from your guides. We've had those comments. They're very few, but they've been there. Yeah. We've had people who've had a bad day or something just didn't work or some other stuff like that. And, next thing you know, you're getting that comment. We do prefer if they say something like if something offends you, I want to know about it. Like, I don't want you to have to sit on that and feel offended and have that eat at your trip, because odds are none of us are trying to offend you. Like our whole goal of guiding is we want to make friends. Like I want every person that leaves the lodge just to be another friend. Like no hate towards anybody ever. And so we are never trying to like offend people or make fun of them or anything like, or hurt feelings even. And if that happens, yeah, as a client, please, that's what we would love is if you say something, because a lot of times it's intentional. A lot of us can make jokes that like is a joke that is comfortable in our group could offend somebody else, if that makes sense. And so, yeah, talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the worst thing that guides can do in the blind is not say anything. Like just not be a part of the whole hunt. Like, kind of just being on their own, just not really participating or not giving their insight, not telling them what's going on. Like, oh, I just saw this group of 3 or whatever. Like, I think some guides go kind of mute, and that's like the worst thing you can do.
Yeah, silence is not good. If you ain't killing them and it ain't working and you're sitting there quiet, you are not going to have good, happy clients. If you are sitting there and you are not killing them, that's when you get out of the blind, you walk, you get kind of in the middle. I have 8 guys, I like to get right in the middle and talk to every single one. I kind of talk to the group as a whole and just start bullshitting. Yeah, you know what might happen is like it happened to me a couple days ago. I was out bullshitting, 20 pack of mallards came in, kind of buffed it up. Didn't really get to, we got to shoot like 2 of them. out of the 20 because I was standing out. But like that's gonna happen sometimes. But like if you get out in the middle and you're able to communicate with everybody and talk and bullshit, that's not always gonna be like if you're always sitting down and you're on your phone and you're not paying attention, you're inattentive, they're not gonna have a good experience. They're there for the hunting, yes, but when the hunting ain't working, they want to talk. They want to learn. They want to ask questions. I mean, we get so many questions about our area and like about all the hunting we do, and it's like I live for that shit. I love telling stories. Like today on the Platte, on the land that we own. We had so many people asking us about how we acquired it, how much land we own, what the land consists of, all these questions about the Platte. And it was great. Like that's my favorite part is taking a lot of pride in the stuff that we do and the stuff that we own. So I would, silence is not a virtue in the guide industry.
Yeah. Going off that vein though, so like that's one thing guides can do that clients hate, but I'd love to hear kind of a list and we can go into like the specifics of them. But what are some things that guides that you've seen that clients hate, the feedback that you're getting?
What was that? The feedback?
Yeah. So since you're the one collecting the feedback, what is it that you and your guides do that the clients hate in the field?
Like that we've received on our own, like from our feedback forms?
I'd say it's more just in general. Yes, if you've experienced, you could probably talk more to it, but things that you've seen, and then, personally,
that
and in
makes
general.
sense. Big thing is like you need to know how to duck hunt. Like you need to know how to duck call. You need to know how to set decoys. You need to know how to hide blinds. Like a client's gonna notice if you threw out a dozen decoys on a pond with layout blinds that have half-ass camo on them, and then all of a sudden you don't shoot ducks. Clients are going to pick up on that. And if it sounds like you're blowing through a recorder or a kazoo when you're trying to duck call, that doesn't sound professional. You put all three of those together and you're halfway to a kindergarten playground. You got to have all of that locked down. The stuff we're working amongst each other still. Like that was one thing, was calling and decoy placement. We've had clients go, that just didn't seem right, like, or make some comments on calling before. So now every summer we all get together twice a week from the end of duck season or from the end of goose season in March all the way until we start up again in October. We get together every 2 weeks or every 2 times a week and we do call lessons now. We do hunting strategy. We all talk. Like the bigger thing is I'm going to set a spread differently than Justin will, and then Grant will, and then Sam will. But sometimes Sam's way is the best way and mine sucks. Sometimes Bob's is the best way and Grant's sucks. So we all come together and share our ways. It just becomes one in the middle, and we all share our duck calling and all of our blind placement. And all of a sudden you have what you call uniformity. Everybody does everything the same way, calls the same way, sounds the same way. And all of a sudden there's no issues. There's no one person. There's no weakest link. So once you create uniformity, you can kind of get past all of the uncertainties and the woes that could be individual failure of assessment. So that's the biggest thing that I've noticed is like and the most broad way is just you got to know how to hunt. Like you got to know all the aspects, ins and outs of hunting, and you got to learn from others to do that.
So how have y'all gone out and learned? Because again, y'all are younger. I know Grant guided with some guys up in Canada, but how did y'all start learning and developing those skills?
It all started, as we grew up, like as we started learning how to hunt ourselves from our families, our grandparents, our dads, our mentors. And then as that happened, the better thing is like in the field, you learn experiences based off of, you see something different every day. And now all of a sudden you've seen that before. And when it happens, you're more prepared for it. You can learn from the mistakes and the hardships of it. And then after, for example, like, I'm only 23, but I've been hunting out here for 10 years, 15 years, ever since I was a little kid. And no, I don't remember everything from when I was 8 years old duck hunting out here, right? But over the years, as you go through that, you remember the area. Yeah. I learned the area. We hunt the same exact fields as I did 10 years ago. So after a while, you learn the area, you understand how the birds work, what the birds like. And like, as you bring new faces in, the biggest thing is teaching them as well. But then you got guys from all over the United States that come up to hunt with you. Some of them, you don't want to take their hunting advice. Some of them you're like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. But some of them have extreme insight into duck hunting. Some of them have different techniques from, say, Arkansas or Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, anywhere that is not Nebraska or North Dakota or South Dakota or Kansas, even some of Oklahoma, that we do a lot of the same shit. People bring stuff in from elsewhere in the United States. They teach you. They say, "Hey, well, we try this. We do this. Use that. Try it. Learn from it." Like, don't be stuck in your ways either. And all of a sudden, the door's open.
I really like what you were talking about is like getting together and with the, new guides and all the owners and just kind of like running through tactics, especially like calling stuff, right? Because everybody can kind of get better at calling. Like, I don't know anybody who would kind of admit, like, unless you're a world champion duck caller, like, even if you are, you can still fucking learn something, right? You can learn something new. Like, someone in Louisiana is going to call a little bit different than someone in Nebraska, and you might learn a thing or two, because in Louisiana the birds need a little bit of different a different cadence, right? So it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Like, one thing I noticed is when we were down in Arkansas, they like didn't call when we were hunting rice fields. Didn't call. I mean, the most the people we were hunting with were doing was drake whistles and the occasional feeder chuckle. That was it. And like, shit, we don't do that. I mean, if they're flying down the Platte, I've got my loudest duck call in my hand, hailing at them if they're 200 yards high, working trying to get them some noise and spin them. And like, all of a sudden, I thought, well, what if I hail at them on the top, and then as they're spinning, drake whistle with a occasional feeder chuckle, and I did that, and on some of those more stale birds, it worked. And I learned that just from being somewhere else. We've learned some decoy strategies. We got hooked up with some other companies that, like, some motion decoy companies that we work with based on client recommendations. So yeah, it's important to always understand that professionalism is based on growth, and growth is based on learning, and learning is based on being open. You can't be a professional consistently if you don't grow, and you can't grow if you don't learn, and you can't learn if you're not open to learning. If you're closed-minded, you're just screwed. Like, don't do that, essentially.
Yeah. I mean, that being closed-minded is it has to be one of the most common problems in the world, but in guiding specifically is like when you get guys that have been doing it for a while, they get a little bit complacent and they start thinking that, the things they've always done are going to work when the birds are constantly changing, right? Like, they are evolving. I mean, like, they're literally evolving to avoid hunters. Like, they are. Like,
Yeah.
What in science, history, or anything like would say otherwise? I don't say anything.
Nothing. I mean, the biggest thing is also, like, duck hunting. It's ever changing. Like, there's the theory that it's like, well, every 3 years you switch from A-frames to layouts, and because you can put A-frames, and the ducks get used to that, so you switch back to layouts and whatever, right? It's based on the area. If everyone in your area runs layouts and you run A-frames, well, you're better off, And then, like, I will agree to that. And then, there's that standard in duck hunting. It's like, well, what's the standard rig? Everyone brings 2 dozen decoys and a spinner. Okay, well, I'm going to bring 5 dozen decoys and no spinners. Or I'm going to bring 6 decoys and no spinners and a water motion decoy or something, right? Finding ways to be different and set yourself apart adds to that level of professionalism. And then, but on top of all of that, if you are not killing them, if it's not working, but you're seeing birds and they're stale and they're just not wanting to work, but if you're going out there and changing decoys every other group that's not wanting to finish, or if you're out there working hard, people see that. Like, people can see that we're making adjustments. We're trying something. We're trying to do better every chance we get. And that's what's the most important, is them seeing effort. That is professionalism at its finest, is showing effort. Showing effort on your duck calling, showing effort on your communication skills, your conversation habits, respecting the clients. Effort is above all, like, professionalism.
Yeah, 100%. And so when you go to hire a new guide, how do you gauge that professionalism? Because it sounds like it's not that they have to be an expert necessarily in any category. Maybe that they know more than you in a specific category so that you can bring them into the group. But how do you gauge someone's ability to be coachable but professional in the field with the clients?
a lot of it comes from experience. I mean, you have to kind of know what it is. It's really hard to, you can teach people to you can tell your guys hey, hold it all back and kind of slowly, relax into the group as, read the group and understand them. But even then, people will make mistakes. A lot of it, and truthfully, it sucks to say it like this, but a lot of it comes from you just got to do it enough and make some mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so variable though. Some guys too, some clients, they don't care that much. Nothing, they don't really sweat much. Some guys, those little mistakes could make or break their trip and on the side of maybe coming back. And so the best thing is always approach the conversation or the group as being I am going to be the most above board out of everybody here, the most polite, the most respectful, the most just professional. And that'll when in doubt, overdo it. Be more professional, be more polite, be more respectful, cautiously, you bump into him in the chair. Oh, I'm sorry, my bad, kind of thing, all the way up to those. Yeah, that's my when in doubt. If you're not comfortable in the situation, you can't read them. Ride high, don't ride low.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the real insight is there is no one size fits all approach other than that, right? Be professional, and until they kind of open up, you don't know if some of the maybe more unprofessional things will fly, which has nothing to do with actual behavior in the blind. It's more how you talk to them and joke around with them.
Yeah. It's kind of culminates all of that. I mean, you got to be able to. You're you as a guide, you carry the hunt from point A to point B, whether you're killing them or you're not. You have to you have to be that. Sometimes you have to be the court gesture. Sometimes you have to run around there and be an idiot, chasing ducks and chasing decoys, and it gives them a good laugh. Sometimes you got to talk to them and talk about, sometimes you walk up and down the blind talking about their life and all their stuff. Sometimes you're just looking like an idiot in the decoys and getting them a good laugh too. I mean, it all comes back to one thing, and that's just providing the best experience that you can.
Yeah, 100%. Well, Hunter, I don't personally have any more questions. I don't know if there's anything you want to touch on more about professionalism with your guides, directed towards your clients, or Logan, if you have any more questions.
I got to mute. I had my mic on mute because my headphones died. But I guess my question to you would be what is your general laundry list of things you hate that guides typically do that you don't tolerate?
Lack of care on the hunt is the biggest thing. Sitting on your phones, texting, sitting down, staring at the ground, not even looking for birds, not showing effort. We also don't some clients, they will or some guides sit together and to themselves, they will joke about the other, if clients aren't shooting, they'll look at each other and be these guys can't hit fucking shit, right? Well, they're joking quietly, yet they're joking quietly just got heard by the guy right next to them. And now he passed it down or whatever. Some people joke, that's kind of a thing. People joke. If clients can't shoot, you're going to end up, that's just your way of laughing. You're not mad about it. It's just a way of laughing. For us, that's what it is. And they go, well, couldn't hit nothing today, but we had a good time. What is what it is. But don't talk about it. If clients are doing stuff that annoys you or that's pissing you off or that's ruining the hunt, don't politely try to help them, but do not publicly shame them. I hate that too. And then my last pet peeve is kind of I talked about, just having people who are not prepared. If you go on a hunt and you're what are you doing? Looking at someone's blinds and their decoys and their calling and they're just all of that all together. Or the level of professionalism to the hunt. If you say to meet us at the field, if you say to meet at the field at 6:30 and at 6:30 the clients pull up and you're not there and it takes you 10 minutes to drive over there and they have to sit there and wait all confused, that's not professional. Or if you tell the clients that, even better, if you say, hey, we're going to leave the lodge at 6:30, why don't you guys just follow us, and you don't get there till 6:40, that's not professional. Being timely, stuff like that. But I mean, I don't see much. Like, we don't have really any of that anymore with our guys. The first year of all inclusive, when we ran a lot of groups that first year, we had some professional things we had to work out. But now we always have one of the owners, usually on almost all the hunts, and all four of us owners are, like I said, we've created uniformity, and so we can always trust that for sure our level of professionalism is going to be upheld.
Cool.
But
cool. Well, I like it. Logan, you got anything else?
Nope, I'm good.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, awesome. Well, thank y'all for listening to the GuideTech Podcast. Logan, mute your mic. I can hear myself talking to myself right now. But anyways, if you enjoyed listening to the podcast and you found it helpful, or if there's a guide that is dealing with professionalism issues, whether it's with themselves or it is with their employees, make sure to send this over to them to hopefully help them out. But please subscribe, share, whatever it is on the platform that you're listening to us on. And we'll see you back here next week for the GuideTech Podcast. Thanks, guys.